Our third lecture in hazard and risk analysis centers on the failure mode and effect analysis. This is a presentation that Professor Tyler put together several years ago, and it's actually a fairly good comprehensive presentation, so there's no need for me to recreate this, so I'm going to very quickly just highlight just a few things. This is going to be a very short video. I'm going to encourage you to download the PowerPoint presentation that accompanies this video and walk through this yourself. Of course, like most of the activities related to design and design controls, there are standards that are available, and failure mode and effect analysis has its origin in the military standards and the military practices of many, many years ago. And the idea was to predict possible failures, predict the effect of failures, and actually to establish those steps to reduce the occurrence or the effect of a failure that actually occurred. There's many different websites associated for this, and I'm not going to go into details. But again, download the PowerPoint presentation and review the slides individually. When we think about failure modes and effect analysis, we have to consider three factors: the severity, the occurrence of the issue, and the ability to detect it. The severity, as shown here, can be catastrophic, critical, marginal, or negligible. I'm going to skip over the next couple slides because I want you to download it and read it for yourself. There's no need for me to have to read these to you. In the end, what we end up with is a risk table of the severity and the other parameters associated with risk, and we get a category 1, 2, 3, or 4. And this, of course, will guide our decision making. We recall the CAPA, corrective and preventive action process. The table, the risk table, will actually be a central part of how we address the issues that have been identified. Basically, category 4 is a broadly acceptable risk. We have to be concerned in the category 2, and of course up in the category 1, those are intolerable risks. So it's really not so much the challenge down here when it's broadly acceptable, but it's when we really have something that crosses the domain between intolerable or not. And this requires a judgment call, and of course, like as you would expect, it involves a team effort, which is where the Quality Council comes into play to establish the actions that should be taken based on this risk table, and whether or not a CAPA should be initiated or not. So we can compute a risk priority number. I'm not going to go into detail on that. We can do that offline. But essentially what happens is all of these factors get loaded into a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet for the failure mode and effect analysis, in reality, I've seen these run from 50 to 60 pages. Some of them are extraordinarily detailed, and this is just simply example. Effects of the failures, the loss of life, current control, the standard anesthesia precautions, and we have all the different parameters here. So we're not going to go into detail because this is something, rather than just listening to me and watching me, this is something you want to sort of work on yourself and work through all the columns and ask yourself, what do I put in those columns? So failure modes and effect analysis, there's two parts. There's design, and then there's process. Both of these are equally important, but the interesting thing is on the design side, many people think of failure mode and effect analysis as root cause, and that is true. But in here, we want to focus on potential failures. So the FMEA is a tool that has very, very broad application. Lots of information on this. You can Google the term FMEA yourself and find all sorts of PowerPoints and references. And this list is certainly not complete. We have talked in class about the MAUD database, and actually to look at, and we've looked at the use of that database as a powerful way to understand things that have happened in the field that we may want to pay attention to. In summary, hazard identification risk analysis is critical in the design process. Again, what we want to do is never place the patient in jeopardy, and we always want to protect their well-being. So in summary, download the files I've mentioned. Download this particular PowerPoint slide, go through it in detail, and actually type in FMEA and pick out some spreadsheets off Google. I think you'll be impressed. There's a lot of information out there, and it's actually a little bit more illustrative than us going through sort of a video PowerPoint. But this video has intentionally been extraordinarily short because I'm again encouraging you to download the files and read them offline.